Welcome back once again, Knicks fans. This is Civil Analytics, talking Knicks with Jersey Dre. Thank you guys for checking us out once again. Before we really get into today's videos and today's topic, I want to remind everyone that we're offering free Knicks tickets if you subscribe to the channel and you like the video. And so if you're watching this video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then email us at civilanalytics@gmail.com with your information, and you get entered into a raffle where you could possibly win a Knicks tickets to any Knicks game you would like. All you got to do is just pick a game, and we'll get the tickets for you. And so it's pretty easy, and so that's pretty much it. So we want to get into today's topic. We just want to recap the preseason, and then we want to preview the first game that the New York Knicks are going to play. And so, in terms of recapping the preseason, the one thing that I liked about it was I think three of the four games, RJ and Julius was fairly efficient. I didn't look at the overall shooting percentage for both players, but I think they shot above 45%. And I think RJ was close to 50% for preseason, which was good. It was like he had one game where he shot 40%. But overall, it looks like they did a pretty decent job shooting the ball. Jalen Brunson, he struggled. He struggled against the Pacers, both games versus the Pacers. So it kind of looks like he's going to struggle against guards, long guards that play good defense. Or maybe he will. It sounds like he may. If you're going to read anything into the Pacers game. But overall, in terms of the preseason, I like what I saw from RJ and Julius. If they can continue playing that way, it'll be great. If they can shoot above 45%, the Knicks win over 50 games. That's pretty much what it is. That's what's going to happen, given the way they like to play defense. If you're shooting above 45%, that's about league average or above league average. And their defense is generally, the last 2 years, has been generally above league average. And so with the combination of both, I think they definitely win 50 games if they're able to happen. So it just pretty much depends on them. Jalen Brunson, like I said, I did like what I see from him. Like basically the identity the team takes as a result of him being on the floor, because Jalen Brunson, he's the kind of player, he's not the kind of point guard that's going to beat the air out of the ball. He's going to come down, set the play up, and move the ball. He doesn't have to have the ball in his hands. He doesn't have to be the one who's making a shot or and also assisting on the shot. So I like the way he plays. He just comes down, set the play up, and moves the ball and moves without the ball. And so it's really good to see. And it kind of feels like the team is starting, or they're trying to take on that identity. There's been one or two games where throughout the game, they kind of lose that a little bit, and they might go into the ball sticks a little bit. But for the most part, they've been moving the ball pretty well, which has been really good. The other player I really liked, the great thing I really saw was Mitchell Robinson. Not specifically the way he's been playing, but more the fact that the team is looking for him. Same thing with Obi. The team seems to be looking for both of them a little more. Uh, the thing is, with this game, if you struggle with efficiency, you have to get the ball to the players that are your best finishers. And so Obi Toppin and Mitchell Robinson are just basically the best finishers on this team. And so you need to get them with a free lane to the basket, whether if it's on pick and roll, as long as they got a free lane going to the basket, going downhill, they're going to be able to finish with ease. It doesn't matter who's underneath the basket, because they're just going to be able to rise above and finish above the rim. So the fact that the team have been looking for those players a little more, especially Mitchell Robinson when he seals his man, if they can do that, they're going to get a lot of easy buckets, and the Knicks are going to be pretty difficult to handle. As far as the bench overall, the bench has struggled a little bit, especially when Derrick Rose is not in the lineup. And so, hopefully, he's going to play. If Tibbs can manage to play Derrick Rose only like maybe 12 to 15 minutes a game and just keep it down, I think it will help to kind of keep the bench unit on in the right line. It seems like Emmanuel quickly sort of struggling a little bit. Um, which surprises me a little bit. I know he had a struggle starting the season, starting last season. But I thought, given the way he finished last season, he was going to play a lot better. And so, but he struggled in the preseason a little bit, and so especially with making plays for the team, for the second unit, and also he just really dominates the ball a little too much. And so, normally last year, it was pretty effective, and when he does it, he is pretty effective at it for the most part. But there was a couple of games this preseason that just wasn't very good. The second unit didn't look great. And I mean, the Cam Reddish. I mean, what can you say about Cam Reddish? I mean, he just struggled this off season. I mean, this preseason. So, in my opinion, it clearly shows that he didn't work on his game the way the other players intentionally worked on your game in an off season. From some of the things that I've been reading and hearing, I don't think he spent as much time with the coaching staff as the other young players did. And so I think it clearly shows up, right? Some people feel like he's just pressing and he's nervous because it's a contract year. And, but I do think the one thing with Cam Reddish, because to me, because I don't think he put in intentional he was intentionally working hard on his game on the offensive end. I think it's just going to take him a little while to get going this season. Hopefully, if the coach goes to him, if the coach keeps playing him a little bit at a time, and then they go to him later in this, and a little bit of time early in the season, I think he's going to pick it up, and he's actually going to be a lot better once like mid-season comes around. I think for him it's just a slow start because I just don't think he really worked on his game the way he should have. The new pickup, Isaiah Hartenstein, was okay. I think he's a backup. Honestly, I think there might be some games where Sims is going to play over Hartenstein, so that's going to be interesting to see. And so that's pretty much what I see from this team, for the preseason. So Jersey Dre, what do you think? Like, what did you see? You want to give us some of your positives from the preseason and maybe some of the concerns you may have?
Yeah, sure. I would say my biggest positive would probably be RJ Barrett. I was a little concerned initially with him signing a 4-year deal, $120 million contract with 107 million guaranteed back in September. Um, he pretty much averaged close, last year to 20 points. Official numbers were 19.8, 6 rebounds, 2.5 assists. Um, and so just seeing the maturation of RJ. And again, I don't put too much onus in preseason. There's some guys that just flounder in preseason but do well, during the season. But his efficiency, when you actually start looking at the numbers and what RJ did, just in those 4 games, 4 games of preseason. Um, Actually, I think I have those numbers. Give me 1 second here, because I was, like I said, I was very, very, very impressed. So RJ, I know you mentioned, Civil, that you want 45%, field goal range. So RJ shot in those 4 preseason games, he shot over 48%.
Yes.
So that's a drastic improvement for RJ. I think him and Julius Randle last year were probably shooting somewhere in that 40% range.
Yes. Mhm.
So, what's different? Is it RJ, taking his game to the next level? Or is it is it Jalen Brunson making the game a lot easier for him? Those are, some of the questions that I have. Now, my second person I was really, really impressed with was Jalen Brunson. He shot 49%. His average somewhere around 17.8 points, which was the numbers I expected. I don't expect Jalen Brunson to score over 20 points a game. He's very efficient. He picks his pockets. He's a really, really good 3-point shooter. He looks at the game and says, okay, you know what? Hey, RJ doesn't have anything. Randall doesn't have anything. Fournier is off. This guy can go and get buckets. And that's something that we haven't had in a long time, a true point guard outside of Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose can get buckets as well. but you can't trust Derrick Rose. Unfortunately, how great Derrick Rose is, you just can't trust him to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Um, so with that being said, I can't say that we have arrived. I think there's still some things that we need to work out. Um, Julius Randle, I was very impressed how I see his game has changed as well. Like he doesn't, I don't feel like he comes down and feels that he needs to be the person that takes the shot. He's starting to play a little bit better within the offense, which is good to see. And so his numbers are going to, his efficiency, I believe, is going to go up. Even though some of his numbers, his points per game may take a little dive, but that's okay. As long as the Knicks are winning. The disappointment that I had, probably, I hate to say it, but my disappointment was probably Cam Reddish and then Obi. And I'll say reason why I mentioned Obi, his 3-point shooting. And we had that one game, I think it was the second game of the preseason, where he rebounded really, really well from the previous game. And his efficiency from that 3-point should be much better than where it is right now. It's almost, I feel like it's almost like been a regression from last year and what he's done since the All-Star game. And it's like, okay, well, what have you been working on? And so, yeah, just as much as I hold Julius Randle feet to the fire with expectations, I'm going to hold Obi Toppin to the same expectations. When you don that orange and blue, there's a certain expectation that is to be held. And if you're not living up to it, you have to be prepared. And I do still believe exactly what you were saying as far as Cam. I don't. Cam is such a big disappointment. Guy has all the talent in the world, all the talent, but when it's time to show up, he's either hurt or he doesn't find a way to be able to be, going with the flow of the game. And it's like some of the shots he's taken were bad shots. And then he made some really difficult shots. So he shows how athletic he is. But it's like finding his niche and finding his place. Now, you're a 4-year player. As a 4-year player, you have to take that next step. Now, I noticed tomorrow's going to be interesting because, for tomorrow's game, the injury report. I said, there was some concerns with Obi tomorrow. I think a sprained ankle, and then there was some concerns, obviously, with Grimes again, with the sore foot. So if let's just say, for instance, if Obi is out, it says Tibbs was essentially ready to go small ball with RJ. He's willing to bring in Hartenstein at the 4 as well. So it'll be real interesting. And then Cam. He has the option to put Cam at the 4. So, I don't feel like we lose a whole lot of depth, if Obi is not out, but hopefully he will play. Hopefully he will have an amazing game. Because I just didn't think his preseason, I just wasn't, my expectations was high and I felt like they weren't met. And so that's kind of, my kind of takeaway from the preseason.
Yeah, I have to agree with you with Obi. I'm not as disappointed as you were. I thought he had in my opinion, I thought he was decent, a little above, like it was decent preseason. However, I guess the thing with him, I think he needs to, I wanted to see was, although he just likes to play in the flow of the offense, I would like to see if he can get buckets for the team, right? Like if the team is struggling, can they go to him and can he get buckets for the team when he's struggling? And it's not clear. It's not clear he can do that. He likes to play within the flow of the offense, and he gets his buckets that way. And there's a lot of good things about that. That's really good. But I think if he wants to be that next level player, Julius can go get a bucket for the team when they need it. He's not highly efficient at it, when he tries to do it alone, but, something that he does attempt to do and he tries to do. And yeah, I would like to see that a little bit from Obi. So that was the one thing. The other thing was more with with the shooting. I think the shooting may come around. I think it's going to come around. I don't, it was definitely consistent. And with Obi, I think the thing that's important with the shooting, you just have to be good enough so you're a threat to make it from the 3-point line. I think he's yeah, I think that's pretty much what it is. You just have to be a threat. People just need to respect it, right? Enough to if you can shoot 35% from three on the season, I think that would be great. Preferably get to like 36%. Once you get to like that 36%, then people are they're gonna run out. They're gonna run out at you when you basically every time you're open and you're trying to take the shot. So I do in some ways agree. I expected more from Obi, and I did kind of feel like some of the things I wanted to see, I didn't see it. So
Sure.
that's pretty much what I would say with Obi. But I still think a lot of potential there, and I think it's more than potential. He's shown he can play in the NBA. He can be a starter. I think he has all-star potential, but he
Mhm.
needs to. I think there was the one game when they were like when the second unit struggled. Was it? I think it was the third game when they really struggled, and I think it was against Indiana. I really thought that he struggled with his shooting, but given how the third team was struggling, like I said, I just want to be able to see him actually take charge of the offense and do something and get the team a bucket when he needed most. And I wasn't able to see that, and it's just something I hope he can he can work on, and maybe we can see going forward.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, and I agree. I do think he has all-star potential, but it's like, you know, it was just disappointing. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, what I've noticed with Obi, especially when he gets pretty good minutes, if he has a bad game, he typically rebounds the next game, right? So
yeah,
I'm waiting like the next game, like, okay, a little off game, and then that
hmm
next game happened and it didn't occur. And so it was just kind of like it was almost deflating because I'm rooting. He's a Knicks, so I'm definitely rooting for him. And
yeah,
so it's like, all right, let's turn it on. I know that one game that they lost. That I've watched that game. I want to say at least 3 times. Especially that fourth quarter because I'm just trying to figure out where did the collapse occur. Like what's happened, and because they were up. I mean, I think they were up with 3 minutes left, 3 to 4 minutes left, and I felt like they weren't playing. That second unit wasn't playing as a cohesive team,
yeah,
and some of the shots just weren't good. And then that the nail in the coffin was when Cam, I think, was driving in the lane and got stripped. It was like, okay, this game's over, right?
yeah, yeah,
And I just felt like Indiana played with a chip on their shoulder.
hmm
They didn't like losing that last game, and they played like there was a contract on the line. They were ready to play. They were ready to go, just energy wise. Which I was surprised. Our second team is our energy team, and so it's going to be real interesting. I want to see how they're going to utilize Hartenstein, just because he can shoot the 3-pointer, so he can stretch it out. Uh, Rebounding, I mean, he's average. He's average, but there's a deficiency when you see him and Obi in the game at the same time. And I think
yeah,
Obi's going to have to really look at his rebounding. There's nothing wrong with him getting a rebound and kicking it out. And he runs so fast, he could easily, streak up the court
hmm
and still be able to get the easy layup.
yeah,
So it's trying to find that balance. Um, so
yeah.
it'll be real interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. I noticed that with Obi and Hartenstein when they were on the floor, especially I think it was like the first game actually I noticed it right away during the first game. I noticed like, there were some possessions where they struggled getting the rebound, securing, closing out the possession and getting the rebound. And it seems like Obi, the thing they're starting to do now is like if he's challenging if he's on rotation and he's challenging a perimeter shot, he just leaks out. I think they just let him leak out right away. He doesn't, because if you're going to challenge the shot, somebody else should be rebounding, right? Because it's difficult to go challenge the shot at the top of the key and then try to sprint back and get the rebound. So I think essentially what they allow him to basically then just leak out right away if he's on the perimeter, like let's say challenging a shot. And so I know he's been doing that, but he definitely needs to work on his rebound, and he can't. I agree. I don't. I think he needs to average more rebounds per game. Yeah, he needs to be. He's got to be. Given the minutes he's playing, if they let him play, basically, if they let him play a solid 17 minutes a game, solid 17, 18 minutes a game, then he needs to. I think he needs to average like 5 or 6 rebounds. He can't be averaging like 3 rebounds a game. Um, and so
Yeah,
the
yeah,
only, the one good thing about Obi though is like, although like if you look at this the shooting percentage, I think he only had one bad shooting game. It was like I think it was the last game. I think he shot 33%. So the one redeeming quality that he does have is when his shot is not falling, is like he does try to do other things, right? He especially,
sure,
it doesn't mean he's not going to attack. He still attacks the basket, so that's one good thing. But I do feel like when his shot is not falling, it does slow him down. It does slow his production down when he doesn't make that shot. I think he's not as aggressive.
right.
I see that, and but yeah, I agree with you. I feel like we still have a lot to see from Obi, and I kind of hope I hope he takes on another step this year. And honestly, given the way the team is playing, in my opinion, for you to have a good team that can, give you a deep run, give you deep runs
Right.
into the playoffs, I mean, you need to have really good players that are coming off the bench. You need to have, for you to make deep runs, you need to have players that should be starting on other teams. I mean, if you
Agree.
think about it, those years we had Anthony Mason. A lot of
Sure.
those, he was coming off the bench, and Anthony Mason is like, he's basically a point forward. He should be starting. He's actually the kind of player you could run a lot of your offense through, but he was coming off the bench for the Knicks. And so I think that's one of the things, people should try to remember. So if both Julius and Obi are playing great, and let's say Obi is getting, if they can find a way to get him like, let's say 20-22 minutes, I mean, that'd be great. I think that'd be great for the Knicks, especially if you have Julius Randle, if he's accepting like that role as like sort of like a third option. The way, he hasn't been really forcing it a lot, this preseason. I mean, if this Julius Randle stays and this is what we see the rest of the season, you couple it with the rebounding. I mean, like, I don't know. It's like I think the Knicks are going to be really good. And it's going to make it really hard for Obi to crack that lineup, to tell you the truth, because Julius, he rebounds at a really high clip.
Yeah.
He's a really good defensive rebounder. When he's committed on defense, Randall's a very good defender. When he's committed, and so if Randall is playing defense this year and is like playing good team ball, I mean, it's definitely going to be very difficult for them for Obi to take that step. But the bright side too is like if you kind of bring Obi on slowly, hopefully, hopefully it could be like a trick. You kind of trick his team to like feel like, okay, maybe to where they allow him to stay with the Knicks, and where basically he comes off the bench, and he might be to see if he's going to be happy at least doing that over the next couple of years until maybe they feel they're able comfortable to move Julius, or until at least he's ready to take on to be that like surefire starter that we need to kind of really help us take the next step. If they can find it, if that can happen where they can keep Obi and Julius at least for a couple of seasons, I think it's going to be good for the team, and we may get Obi on a really good deal in terms of like his next contract. Uh, but the thing, I just have a feeling that they know what Obi. I mean, I think he's like the only player on this team um, that just kind of like flashes. I mean, you're starting to see it more with RJ now, but athletically and everything, I think it's Obi is the one that kind of flashes. As far as like all sort of like all-star You know, because of the athleticism and his
Yeah,
ability to
potential.
finish at
Yeah.
the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I do. I see those flashes too. And I really saw those last 5 or 7 games last year.
Mhm.
And of course, you'll find people who will say, well, yeah, they were playing, against a bunch of cab drivers. Or they were playing against, a bunch of bums or whatever. Or, hey, everybody's an NBA player. There weren't G League guys out there,
Yeah.
everyone is out there and they are, wondering when their next contract is coming or, they're possibly getting traded. So they're still playing hard.
Yeah.
So I I don't look at it when it happened. Who was they were playing against. It was just a fact that, hey, you know what? There he showed up. You just don't get 42 points. He was given the minutes, he was given the opportunity.
Mhm.
So I think he's going to get more minutes this year, but he's got to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Another person I just want to mention that I was a little disappointed as well was Emmanuel Quickly.
Yeah.
Um, Quickly shot, you know, essentially what 12 points per game, 4 rebound, 3 assists, 34% from the floor. Just that one game that lost to Indiana, he shot 4 for 18,
Oof.
from the field and 2 from 7 for 3 points
Yeah.
and for 12 points. And that's just not acceptable. It's just it's he kind of reminds me of J.R. Smith.
Yeah. Yeah.
The gift and the curse, right? Yeah, you just never know which guy you're gonna get. He's Jekyll and Hyde, and there's some games where he can shoot you into the game, and there's games he'll shoot you out, right?
Yep.
And um, I was hoping to see, with Quickly, some marginal improvements as well, but it just wasn't there. And if you look at, and again, this is preseason is a small sample size, right? It's not even 10 games. We got a small sample size. But if you look at from a 3 point percentage range, who do you think, just off the top of your head, was our best 3 point shooter in the preseason? And then I want you to answer, who do you think was the second?
So, I mean, people normally think like IQ is the best shooter, but RJ Barrett, I mean, like, I think he was probably the best percentage shooter, maybe. And maybe Jalen Brunson was the next, or maybe Jalen Brunson was first and RJ was second. I think I haven't really looked at the stats that deeply.
Okay.
Um, but
RJ shot extremely well. Yeah, RJ shot at 50% from 3 point range.
that's
Okay.
hard. Yeah.
What's the other guy? Ryan Ark. I can't think of his last.
Arcidiacono.
Yeah, Archidiaco, yeah. He shot 50% too, but I only think he took 2 shots. So, right? So we won't count him. But the second person was Jalen Brunson shot at 46.2%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quickly shot at 31%. Derrick Rose was at 33. Fournier was at 30%.
Mhm.
Julius was at 27. And Obi shot a dismal 23.5%. So, yeah.
Oh my
Now,
goodness.
did you see how deflating that was? Right.
That's
To hear that
bad.
number?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what, when you really start kind of looking at the numbers, and I like to, to analyze the numbers as well as the eye test,
Mhm.
as well. But if that 3 point shot was not falling, and I say, hey, you give up 2 heaves and it's nothing, and you give up a third one, it's not your night to keep shooting that 3 point.
Yeah.
That tells me that you didn't stay up late and shooting that shot. You didn't get to
Mhm.
practice early shooting that shot because some of them were really, really good looks.
Mhm.
And at this point, at this juncture, you shouldn't be missing it. I think he's a good enough 3 point shooter where he can be able to hit at least uh, anywhere from 35 to 40% of his 3 pointers. To shoot in the 20s, that's unacceptable.
Yeah,
That's
that's not
really
good.
unacceptable. You
That's
know,
not that's not a good thing. I agree with you on that. It's definitely not good. So it's something he definitely needs to work on. He desperately needs to work on. Yeah, going back to Emmanuel quickly, what you're saying about him is like, it's funny. He hit me a couple of weeks ago. I think we talked about in the last stream that we did.
hmm
I could see why now they didn't want him as a starter. Why they don't see quickly as a starter. It's because he like I've always felt like he kind of handles the ball too much. But now it's like it's although he can be effective dominating the ball sometimes,
hmm
but he's not on that level yet, and that's not the kind of style of basketball people want to play. Especially like it's just not the style of basketball like Thibodeau wants it to play. And it's the funny thing, if you remember, if you guys know, like Calipari had him playing off ball, and he was a point guard in high school, and he has the skills to be a point guard, but he's just like, I think the reason now it's kind of like I understand why Calipari had him off ball and why like even the Knicks don't want him. They're trying to see if they can develop him into a point guard, but right now he's just he's not there yet because of mostly because he dominates the ball too much, and he always looks for his shot first too much, instead of sometimes just setting up the play and moving the ball. I think sometimes you can hear even the coach yelling at him to move the ball. So
right.
it's just so it's right now, unfortunately, it just come that's his game. And yeah, and it's fun. And I remember like last not this summer league, but the previous summer league, a lot of people were talking about how well he played in that summer league and that he was averaging 8 assists. I was at that summer league. I remember I was there to watch the games, and
Okay.
boy, what he was just like. I remember thinking like, damn, is quickly gonna pass the ball. You know, I mean, like he either like when he was on the floor, he would basically have the ball in his hand the whole time, and he was either going to make the shot, take the shot himself, or he was going to try to create a play and pass the ball to someone else to take a shot. I mean, that was the whole offense with quickly. And I remember it was just kind of like it wasn't, it didn't look that good. The offense just didn't look very good. And then when they had McBride running the offense, and McBride is not like he's not even ready yet to be he's not ready to even be a starting point guard. He's barely a backup point guard, right? The
Right.
way he's been shooting, unfortunately. But although I think he's gonna regain his confidence this year, he's gonna look much better. But like McBride, when he was running the point guard, like the offense was flowing. The offense played a lot better when he was running the point guard during that summer league. And that was his first season. That was and quickly was going into his second season. And it was just like it was night and day the way the offense looked. When quickly was running it kind of didn't look very good. It looked bad. It was kind of terrible to me because it was too stagnant at times, and it was all dependent on whether or not quickly made a shot, and then even when he got someone else a shot, he wasn't really getting them layups at the time. He was just kind of getting people 3-point shots, and there weren't enough 3-point shooters in that squad on the floor to kind of hit him at a consistent rate. So, but yeah, I mean, it's quickly does have quite a ways to go. I see why they don't see him as a starting point guard, and it's not because he's struggling shooting the ball and he's taking too much shots. I just think it's like he dominates the ball too much, and so he doesn't move the ball enough. And so I think that's the reason why. And so if he wants to be a starting point guard ever in this league, I think he's going to have to understand that sometimes you just have to come down, set the play up, and just move the ball and just let everything move around, and even control the traffic to help your team be in the spots they need to be. You can do a lot of that stuff without the ball in your hands.
Right.
So I think he just needs to understand that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. He has to change that mindset, and it's going to take him some time. He's been playing this way for so long,
You know.
and he even missed free throws. It's like, oh my god, what's going on? You know?
Yeah. I'm not understanding that part. He's like supposed to be like one of the best free throw shooters in the league, and I don't get it. And he misses a lot of free throws sometimes. So I don't know what's going on quickly. Hopefully he can put it all together. If he can have a fairly efficient season, if he can get up to like 42, 43% for the Knicks, And then just try to move the ball a little more. He doesn't always have to have the ball in his hands all the time. If you can do those two things, I think, we'll be a lot better. And, the second unit will play a lot better.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to talk about, obviously the game they're going to play against the Grizzlies. I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah.
a tough first game. And I think that's in Memphis, right? I think that game
It's in
is it in Memphis?
Memphis. It's
Yep.
in Memphis.
Okay, so it's yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. I think we match up pretty okay with the Grizzlies. Um, it's and then some of the matchups I would like to see. Well, first of all, I hope we beat them. I just and it's mostly they rub. Who Desmond Bain is the one. He rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
I just don't really like him that much. And the Grizzlies are one of those teams that's like I don't like or hate, but they're kind of quickly falling into I hate them category because of that kid. I, I just
Desmond Bain.
Desmond Bain, yes.
Yeah.
So, but I hope we do beat them. And it's just some of the matchups that's to me that's interesting. I think the biggest one is really for me is really just Mitchell Robinson to see how he does versus Adams. So that's going to tell us like where's Mitchell Robinson? Has he really taken that next step? And then of course the other one is I think Brunson versus is going to stop in that other point guard is going to be a team effort. And I think Brunson is going to do a pretty decent job. The Knicks always do a pretty decent job playing against John Morant. So it's really more the rest of the team because he because of the way Morant plays, he's one of those few players that kind of bend space, kind of has that gravity. He's able to bend space on the court.
Sure.
So
Well,
even
who's going to guard him though? But who's going to guard John Morant? Do you think would you put Brunson on him? I wouldn't.
I mean, it's I guess you can actually put. I think yeah, you can put RJ on them actually.
You would have to.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, Brunson can
You
play
can't.
Desmond
You can't
Bain.
put Fournier on him. So you
Yeah,
got
yeah, that's true.
highlight
Yeah,
reel the whole game. Maybe a highlight reel. You put
yeah,
Evan on him. So it would have to be RJ. RJ has to RJ if there's any wings guard that's elite,
hmm
it has to be RJ.
yeah.
It just has to be
Yeah,
because
he needs to
J-
take that step it up.
yeah, Jalen Brunson will never be able to keep up. He'll never be able to keep up with the John Morant, you
hmm
know, Trey Young. It just won't. I mean, really good players can't keep up. Who have really good feet on defense. Who can adjust. And so I can't even say that RJ would stop him, but could slow him down. That's my whole thing. Don't let their star player beat us. It needs to be someone else.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to see, um, who's gonna step up this game. Because now, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we didn't when we beat the Wizards, we beat the Pacers, and who was the other team we played in the
Uh,
preseason?
I
Uh,
can't even remember that first game. It was a close game. I can't remember who it was.
right.
Yeah,
And so my point is we didn't beat anyone, right?
true. Yeah.
Right. So to me, this is a pivotal game. I win, lose, or draw. I want to see who steps up, right? And I want to see who plays with high energy, who has that tenacious, that tenacity.
hmm
Win, lose, or draw. Even if this game is of course, I want us to win. I really want us to win. But in the event that we don't, I want to see who steps up. You know, and I also want to see how I want to see how Jalen Brunson handles adversity. Because everywhere he's gone, he's been in a winning program from Villanova. Even to Dallas, he's been in a winning program.
Yeah.
This is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to win as many games as Dallas, unfortunately. But we're going to win more games than we did last year.
hmm
I can see us at the very minimum winning somewhere, in that 42 to 45 range at the very minimum.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be different. trying to find a play-in spot is where we're at. Unless someone emerges as a true star player on this team. And right now, the closest thing that we have is going to be RJ Barrett.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you with your statement, everything you said about RJ, including Jalen. I think Jalen, he's I actually think he's going to be fine. He's just one of those players. Is just like it doesn't matter where he is. At every level, he's always been a really good floor general. And if you look at it, even like Villanova haven't won the same amount of, they haven't won to the same extent since he left. Although there is still a really good program, but he was a big, he was a huge reason. After the fact, you kind of realize he was a huge reason that Villanova was able to win 2 chips while he was there. And even with Dallas, he definitely showed a lot last year. Actually, the last couple of years with Dallas, he's not perfect. I mean, he has things he needs to work, needs to improve. Obviously, he's not the fastest player, and so, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he handles the adversity. I think he's going to handle it fine, but it is going to be interesting to see. And with RJ in this game, yeah, he's definitely have to, I could see them putting John Moran on him. I think it's probably the smart decision, the smart move, and then just have Jalen Brunson guard Desmond Bain. So it's going to be interesting to see how it happens. But I do think the Knicks have a good shot at winning this game because we tend to match up pretty well versus the Grizzlies. And so, and with RJ, I really hope he goes off this game.
Yes. Yeah.
If he can just start making his layups, he still struggles finishing in the paint, which I just don't understand. Maybe over time, I think it's just something that works out better for him over time. The other thing he may have to consider doing is like maybe whatever the moves he's gonna. I mean, he needs to get maybe like I think you were talking about a few streams ago where he needs to give himself an outlet. He like not having to take like every shot that's in the paint.
Right.
So if it looks like he's not going to be, it's going to be a tough shot. Maybe just dump it off to someone else who's maybe there in the paint with you or kind of in the baseline or something. So but it's going to be interesting. His 3-point shot, the fact that it's falling right now, I think is going to give him a lot of breathing room, which will be really good. And you're seeing improvements from him a little bit every year. You're seeing different things. Efficiency took a big step backwards last year,
Sure.
but you did see some playmaking from him, being able to get his teammates layups. To me, that's what I see. The fact that and I'm starting to see it from Randle this year. Now, at once a game now, I'm seeing Randle get somebody a layup, and it's like to me, that's the if you're saying you're a playmaker, that's what I'm looking for. Someone are you able to get your teammates easy shots at the basket? Honestly, the whole getting your teammates a 3-point shot. I mean, if you're a halfway decent offensive player, it's not that hard to collapse the defense, like especially like by going into the post and then and swinging it out to the 3-point line. It's the hardest shot to get your teammates to is an easy 2. Every team will rather give up the 3-point shot than the 2. So, but I like what I'm seeing from all of them in terms of the playmaking, and hopefully, I think we're going to see a lot of that during this Grizzlies game, and hopefully, hopefully they come away with a win. Is there any other matchups you're looking for in this game before we kind of wrap up the stream?
That's my key matchup. So what do we only have one problem that we have to worry about.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's Ja. We got to worry about him. If we can contain him and if he's not the person that's beating us and creating highlight reels on us, I think we have a good shot at winning this game. And so again, what I want to see is just essentially our team step up. I want to see who's ready for the bright lights for this year, for 2022 to 2023. Who's ready? And that's what I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. Same here. It's like it's easy. They just got to look for their best, their best finishers. And if you look at the 3 point, if you're looking for shooting, you got to look for your best shooters. Look for RJ at the, on the perimeter, and look for Fournier on the perimeter. Also Jalen Brunson. But if you're going towards the rim, make sure you have your eye out for like Mitch. Have your eye out for Obi, and maybe Randle if he's near the rim and he's cutting to the basket. So I think that's the biggest thing they have to do. They just got to keep it simple. They do have the Knicks have the talent. They just don't. I feel like for what I used to say about Randle last year was like he's the only player that I know he can dribble, pass, and shoot, but he doesn't know when to dribble, when to pass, or when to shoot. And so this Knicks, they have the combination of talent that they need to actually to do well. They just need to learn how to play basketball the right way. And if they do that, they're going to win this game, and they're going to win a lot of games this season. So we'd like to thank everyone for watching the stream. And Dre, thank you so much for joining me on the stream. So it was really good. It's always great to have you on the stream, to have like a second voice. It really helps. And it helps kind of give it, kind of breaks up. I have a pretty monotonous, voice. It's very monotone and could get pretty boring. So it's always good to have a different voice to kind of like, to counter what I'm saying.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah.
so I
Thank you for the
appreciate
invite. I'm loving it, enjoying it.
it.
Nothing more I like to do than talk about the Knicks.
Same here. Same here. So, like after this game, that's when it really begins. So what I'm going to be trying to do is like last year I didn't do it for all the games, but I would do it for like a lot, as much games that I could. I would basically tabulate the defensive stats myself.
Okay.
So I may do that again, try to do a lot of it this year. It kind of gives me a pretty good insight of like, how people are really playing, who's really playing defense, and who's just kind of like faking it. So
Right. Absolutely.
and it also it helps me get pretty good insights on the game, and then also it really helps with like a lot of the analysis. I mean, I would love it if I can do it for every game, but I mean, that's a lot. We will obviously you have a job and I have a job, and it's like I just can't. I'm gonna try to do as much as I can, but tabulating those stats are like, oof. That means I would have to watch every offensive frame, every off every scoring, actually every shot attempt by the opposing team. Essentially, that's what I have to do, and then I have to mark down like, okay, who took the shot for the opponent, who defended on the shot on the Knicks, right? Was it a made shot or a missed shot? And so I mean, the way NBA.com they do kind of make it easy because pretty much I go to NBA.com. So let me just pull this over real quick so you can see this. So normally I would just like copy, let me minimize this a little bit. I'll just usually just copy this whole thing, right? And then paste it onto Excel because it tells you who took the shots on the rows, right? And then basically on the columns, I'll put down the defensive players on the columns. And then so for each shot that was taken, like if it was I think yeah, if it's a made shot, I put I'm trying to remember what did I do last year? Oh no, if it was a made shot, like if it's a made layup, I put a 2. If it's a 3 point shot, then I put a 3. And if it was a missed shot, I just put a 0. Right. And so that's pretty much what I did. And I will put it down based on like who was guarding that opposing player, that offensive player when they took the shot. So but so NBA.com does make it a little easier to do it, but it's still like, it still takes time. I think it takes an average like maybe 40 minutes to do it. And so
Okay.
yeah, it's trying to do it for every game. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but anyway, thank you guys for watching. And the real games begin tomorrow night. And so I may do a live stream after the game, depending on how I feel. And Dre, we'll reconnect maybe later in the week to see if you have time either over the weekend or even maybe Monday. And we'll just chop it up again to talk about the games that we saw this week.
Sure, sure. And also want to send prayers up to Nate Robinson and Matumbo. They've been having some some health issues. You know, former Knicks. We want to keep them in our prayers.
That's right. Thank you for saying that. Yes, definitely prayers go out to Nate Robinson, Matumbo, their families and friends. Really hope they do well, they recover. And yes, thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate it. But that's the end of the stream, guys. And so please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you send your information to us, if you do both things, you get entered into a raffle with a chance to win free tickets. Thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you on the next stream.